All right, I wanted to give you guys some pushes in the right direction with this question 713. So it's our UN voting question. And they talk about that there's 15 total countries, there's 5 permanent members who are voters, and then there's 10 non-permanent members, so different positions that get filled by various countries. So 15 total voters, and they ask us, based on this description they gave, whether or not this is a weighted voting system. So they give us a hint that, well, we would really be asking then, what are the weights and what is the quota? If it is going to be a weighted voting system, we should be able to find those things. So if you notice, this is a starred question, which means that some of the solution, at least a portion of it, is in the back of the chapter. So if you take a look at their hint to get started for this, they say, well, let's just think about the idea that maybe these non-permanent members all just have a weight of 1. And then we have to essentially figure out what the weight of the 5 permanent members are. So we're just going to give them kind of a placeholder name. So what is their weight? And then let's just call it X for now. So then we can take a look at thinking about this arbitrary quota and just saying, all right, if that exists, let's call it a Q. So they tell us in the problem that for things to pass, we need things to pass where you have all of the permanent members vote and then at least 4 of the non-permanent members vote. Right, it says passage of a motion requires votes in favor from all 5 permanent members and at least 4 non-permanent members. So what that means is basically we get this pass with 5 of the permanent members, right? We need 5 times X, and then we just need 4 of the non-permanent members. And if those were weights, remember passing in a weighted voting system is just adding up the weights. So we would have 5 copies of X and then 4 copies of 1. And if it passes, that means that it's at least, so greater than or equal to the quota. So notice we can kind of set up this equation here where we would then have 5x plus 4 should be greater than or equal to q. Now, they don't then give us this information of, they don't say it, but we can interpret then, right? We could have made 4 higher, we could have had more than 4 permanent members, but this one at least does it. But if we think about something that would make it not pass, and especially if I try and think about kind of a largest case where it doesn't pass, well, let's say I have all 10 of the non-permanent members vote, but I only have 4 of the permanent members vote. Well, that's going to be a not pass situation because it says that we require all of the permanent members. So if it doesn't pass and it is a weighted voting system, that must mean that it does not reach the quota, that total would have to be less than the quota. So our question somewhat becomes, can I find this X and this Q that make these work? So we could do a little bit of guess and check. We could also attempt to try and put these two together to see some interesting things. So if I take a look at it, well, I see that Q, right, is less than or equal to 5x plus 4, but it's bigger than 4x plus 10. Let me clean that up a little bit so you can read it better. So what we see then, kind of a little hint for you here, is, well, what if it's like that transitivity law, the same way that we saw before, right? If this piece is less than Q and Q is less than that piece, well, then we must have that the first part, 4x plus 10, is less than the last part, 5x plus 4. And then it's just a nice little algebra problem. So we can like get rid of the 4x, move that over to the other side. So then we would have 10 is less than x plus 4, and we can get rid of the 4, which would then look like 6 must be less than x, or another way to say that is x must be greater than 6. So let's try x equals 7. So remember, x was that weight for the permanent members. So we're going to try giving them a weight of 7. And the non-permanent members a weight of 1. So what you guys are now going to try and see is, with that in mind, can you then find Q? So, and you can probably still use that idea up there, right, if you know, or these ideas right here. If you now have that x is going to be 7, can you figure out a suitable quota Q that would work for this to be a weighted voting system?